Welcome to part 4 of this video series. We're almost there. This is the last section pertaining to the content of your resume, and honestly, if you've gone through the first 3, you could make a solid resume by itself. But we're just going to tie up a few loose ends and small sections here. So first up is education. This is something you should have on your resume. It's very simple. You don't want to overcomplicate it. Here's an example of a pretty standard education section. You have your degree, Bachelor of Arts. If you have a specialization, you might want to dash or something, English. Then you want to have the date that you've taken this. You can get away with just a graduated date if you'd like, but sometimes that could be confusing if you don't say graduated or completed. So just make sure it's clear when you finished, or if you're still in school. Under that title of your degree, you're going to have your school and then city. And this is very simple. Just structure it as similarly as you can to your above work experience section. Again, you want continuity throughout your whole resume. Now, in this section, you may want to add coursework. So if you have very little work experience, you're freshly graduated, your coursework may be relevant, especially if you've taken some advanced specialization classes. So there's basically 2 options. You can either have a whole different section of coursework. Honestly, this is not the best option. Try not to do that unless you literally have 0 work or volunteer experience. But even then, you should probably go get volunteer experience before you start applying for actual jobs. The best option typically is right under, in this section, put a bullet point right here where the mouse is, just like a work experience section, and type relevant coursework and then list the most relevant courses. Now these have to be obviously relevant. If it's for a general marketing job, don't put just accounting. Sure, it may be useful in some jobs, but that's not obvious. So definitely only include the most obvious ones. So just a bullet point like this, it communicates what you've been specializing in, and it may give you a little leg up, but it's not a make or break kind of thing. And you definitely don't need this course or this section on your resume, so don't worry about it if you haven't taken any courses recently. Now, awards are another thing, just a quick section here we're going to go over to. If you have any impressive awards, include them in their relevant section. You typically don't need a separate section for them. So they may be educational awards. You can put that right under the relevant coursework. They may be Employee of the Month or some other work award, and you can put that under the relevant work experience section as well. So then here's a final thing. You're often taught this in school to include hobbies at the bottom of your resume. Honestly, you don't need a hobby section. Having a personality is important to getting a job, but that's typically going to come out in an interview. The thing with hobby sections is if you really want to include it, and you have the extra space on your resume, they're not really going to add value. So I typically don't like them. But at the same time, as long as you don't have too dangerous hobbies, don't put hunting and things like that on your resume before you know the kind of people you're working with. Some people will be fine with that, but others might be a little offended or think that's dangerous. You just want to play it safe, basically. It's not really going to make or break your success at getting an interview, and that's really the purpose of getting a resume. Okay, finally, last loose end is references. Since the dawn of time, people have been putting resumes available upon request at the bottom of their resume. It's obvious to any employer or hiring manager that if you get an interview, you need to provide some sort of references. This line on your resume isn't useful. You're always going to get the interview before references. So basically, it wastes space. You also don't want to include the references right on your resume. You don't want to have a ton of people calling your references. You know, that's inconvenient for them. So, verdicts, just leave them off and bring them to the interview. So basically, we've gone over everything you need to know to make a pretty killer resume. Last part of this series, we'll be looking at the design, which is important. So check that out, and I'll see you there.